Okay, here we are, going at it. This is the first episode of, what are we calling this? Of True Crime and Wine. Wine and Crime. Crime and Wine. Winin' and crimin'. All the time. Something like that. We'll narrow it down as we get there. So we're finally here, we're finally doing this. I figured the best start to do this would be Old Faithful, the Titanic. Kind of regrouping everything, coming back, revisiting. I've already covered the Titanic and the conspiracies that lay around it on Talking Out the Ash over on Facebook and anywhere you can find a podcast. I think we covered the Titanic on their podcast maybe over a year ago. I don't know if it's been that long. It's been a while. So today we're going to be talking about the Titanic. What happened? What happened? A lot of people I don't know much other than, it was this huge shipwreck. So many people lost their lives. It was supposed to be the biggest, luxury cruise ship. It was a big deal. But not many people, because this is a passion. This is a passion of mine. Very passionate about the Titanic. Oh my goodness, I need to get my little Titanic boat in here. I have a Titanic. I'm going to go get him. I meant to bring him in here. I'll be right back. Oh my gosh. Now we're going. Now we're ready to rock and roll. Okay. Initially, this started with my dad. My dad didn't. He was like, this is absurd. Why would it be insurance fraud? Why would they kill so many people? And that's what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to enlighten you on the dark. It's really dark history moment, I guess. If you don't know, if you live under a rock, if you're just in your own little world, we're going to talk about the Titanic was a British passenger liner. It was owned by White Star. What is it called? So it was owned by the White Star Line. Let's see. The cost to build the Titanic at the time was $1.5 million, which in today's money would be about probably $150 million. So it was a lot of money then, and it's a lot of money now. Obviously. It left the 10th of April, 1912. So the boat sunk. A boat sunk on the 15th of April, 1912 in the North Atlantic Ocean. There were about 2,224 passengers on board, and 1,500 of those died. Unfortunately, the voyage was intended to leave Southampton, England, and complete once the ship crossed the North Atlantic and made its way to New York City. However, it never made it there. It sunk in the middle and didn't quite make it. So this is a story that it was a ginormous cruise ship. I mean, really looking at the photos for something of its time, it was magnificent. It was gorgeous, and it would have been something so superb. So let's chit chat. What happened? What's the 411? I'm gonna grab myself a little drink, and we're gonna get down. I hope you have a drink. I hope you're sitting down. If not, sit down, grab a snack. We're going to be here for a little bit, and I think you're definitely going to want to be sitting down. So basically, we're just going to be talking about the fraudulent, fatal switch of the Titanic and the Olympic. We're going to chit-chat about the main differences that you see in the boats that are visible whenever. I'm going to try to make this not confusing because I confuse myself sometimes when I'm talking once they switch. So as the Titanic sat while it was being built, and the Olympic as it was as a work ship, this is where we're going to talk about the differences, the visible differences, sizes, and whatnot. And I'm going to try to make it really obvious whenever we're talking once the boats have been switched. I'm going to do my best because I really confuse myself a lot. I get lost. There's so many details, and two boats that are nearly identical. It gets messy. Initially, when the Titanic was being built and the Olympic was in service, the Olympic had 16 portholes, and the Titanic, while it was being built, had 14 portholes. Obviously, big difference. One boat's not going to magically lose 2 portholes and appear on the other. We didn't have that kind of, whatever that is. I don't know. Witchcraft. AI probably could do it at this point. I don't know. So, the Titanic had an enclosed promenade on the B deck, which I'll show, and an alteration that, because the Olympic was already built and working, whatever, White Star, the company, when building the Titanic, demanded that it be an enclosed promenade to save space. I don't know what that means, but that's what happened. So, whereas the Olympic, while it was in service and working, had an open promenade on the B deck, and large difference, okay? From the start, 2 different boats. Can't get more obvious than that. On the Titanic, all of the B deck windows were unevenly spaced apart. So instead of being uniform windows, 2 feet apart, 2 feet apart, 2 feet apart, it was like 2 feet, 7 feet, 6 feet. Someone forgot their ruler and had a heyday. Unsupervised. Sounds like something Murphy would do, honestly. Murphy's my dog. Whereas on the Olympic, all of the windows on the B deck were 2 feet, 2 feet. I'm not saying it was exactly 2 feet. I can't measure. Neither boat exists anymore. So, the B deck windows were uniform in spacing until 1913. This is after the Titanic sunk, when the company White Star allegedly went in and remodeled the Olympic to resemble the Titanic's original build more. And they, for some reason, thought the guy without a ruler was onto something, and took out all of the windows on the B deck, redid the B deck completely, enclosed the promenade, attached it, and unevenly spaced all the windows, which just personally to me seems so bizarre. I don't know why we would do that. I guess nobody had OCD. That's all I can come. I don't know. If to say this conspiracy is a dud, not true, and they really did go and remodel it, that just doesn't make sense. 14 portholes. Enclosed promenade on the B deck. Unevenly spaced windows. Original Titanic. Olympic, 16 portholes. Open promenade on the B deck. Evenly spaced windows with a 1913 remodel to enclose and attach the promenade and unevenly space the windows. Because, side note, because they did this report that they allegedly renovated it to resemble the Titanic more, was because it was cruising around on the 7 seas, and people were like, well, that is not the same boat. That's what they went on and said. Obviously, no technology then. You can't just like beep, boop, boop. Prove them wrong. 14 portholes. Can't really see the windows clearly from this image because this is one of the few images that actually exist of it. being. What do they call them? Boat hangers? A dock. They call it a dock. So anyways, the second T of Titanic that's written on the boat is directly centered under the fourth porthole. That's very important information. I just want you to take that sticky note and I want you to put it in your pocket and we're going to circle back. So bookmark that page. Don't. To the Titanic on its maiden voyage. Is it a voyage? Voyage? Get them confused. If it's not voyage, sue me. So here's the Titanic on its maiden voyage, where you can see that it has 16 portholes. Where'd that come from? I don't know. Where it has 16 portholes, the same windows as the Olympic did, completely different from the original build, and an open promenade.
Had evenly spaced windows, and the original Olympic had
Why'd you open it?
Spaced
it was
windows.
Enclosed.
So when
they were building it and it was enclosed.
Not Titanic
to make more room
of the voyage
for the B class. But now it's open. And now you have less space on this ginormous cruise ship. Why did you do that? I don't know. Next to each other, where the Olympic is pictured on the right and the Titanic is pictured on the left. Here's the sitch. Okay, the Olympic had an accident. It happens. We all do it. Okay, it collided with HMS Hawke off the Isle of Wight. White? I wrote it down as white, but that doesn't sound correct. It collided with HMS Hawke in 1911, which happens, I'm sure, with boats, shipwrecks, boo-boos, whatever. Technology wasn't grand back then, except it was a big deal because this was a royal ship. It was a royal ship. And they're kind of not going to take your crap. Like, you should have seen them. Hang on, there's a train coming. I don't know if you can hear the train. We're just going to pretend like you can't hear the trains. And if you can hear the trains, then it's for dramatic effects. Just pretend it's a ship horn. I planned this. It's actually a ship horn. I'm actually at the boat docks, and this was planned. Okay. So because this was a royal ship and there's not like cameras on these boats, there's not, the insurance company of White Star was like, yeah, no, we're not going to get into this, because the royal whatever was like, it's your fault. They investigated it, whatever. It was their fault. So they were like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Because they docked in Liverpool, and so they couldn't afford to have the repairs out of pocket for the Olympic and out of pocket to like wrap up the Titanic. And they were going to have to push the voyage of the Titanic a whole month. And they were like, we can't do that. We can't afford that. We're going to go bankrupt. And because White Star would go bankrupt, Liverpool docks would die off, and over 20,000 people basically would be losing their job. And they were like, yeah, we can't have that. So as a result, they recarpeted. They like all of the interior stuff of the Titanic got switched to the Olympic, and lifeboats were switched. The name tags were switched. Menus, art, sculptures, you name it, it was switched. Famous people like J.P. Morgan, Bruce Ismay, Thomas Andrews, they were all supposed to be on the Titanic. But within like 12 to 24 hours of each other, they were sick. They were all sick, and they were like, we're not going to be able to make it. Weird, isn't it? even more strange, J.P. Morgan had originally put a bunch of bronze sculptures that were very valuable, very important to him, on to the Titanic to have taken to New York and displayed. Within an hour of the voyage, those were taken off, all gone, all taken off. Why? Though, why? And to add, I'm not done. I know you think I'm done, but I'm not. To add to that, J.P. Morgan and his mistress were spotted in France on vacation, and then J.P. Morgan's wife and children, who were also supposed to be on the Titanic, but they were sick. They were all in Wales vacationing. It's so cold in here. So cold in here. They were not sick. And it might be a little too much, but because the White Star and like so many people were at risk of losing 20,000 people were at risk of losing their jobs at this point, that the documentary on Amazon, Titanic, The Shocking Truth, states that the British government at the time might have been aware, perhaps. Because, this would have caused an economic crash of 20,000 people unemployed, gone. Perhaps. Because, like James Fenton, in 1996, he came forward as one of the surviving crew members, stating that when those surviving crew arrived to New York, before they were permitted to return back home, they were forced to sign something called the Official Secrets Act. The Official Secrets Act is legislation that provides the protection of state secrets and official information, mainly related to national security, but in unrevised form, based on the UK's Official Secrets Act of 1911. This can include all information held by government bodies. So, it is a thing. When I heard it, I was like, that's not true. That's not a thing. It is a thing. And he came forward specifically saying, the government man read us, the crew, the Official Secrets Act, explaining that if we told of the real reason for the sinking or the rumors of an insurance scam, we would serve a minimum of 20 years in jail and would never get a job when we got out. At that time, if I had just gone through this traumatic thing and then was forced to sign this, I would be lips sealed. So once they came up with this plan, the Titanic's voyage capacity was extremely minimalized. I guess so this ensured, many of the first class tickets were refunded, and only half of the second class tickets. With a capacity well over 3,300 individuals, the not Titanic, took off with 2,200 people, including 900 staff. So let's talk about the third Californian, the SS Californian. The SS Californian was a passenger ship. It was a steamship, basically. It always traveled roughly the same route from Liverpool to New York. And it always carried a full load of coal and a full load of miners and workers going to New York. So the SS Californian, the day that the day that the not Titanic sunk,
It set sail 4 hours prior to the not Titanic's voyage. It left with no passengers, which it never did, and coal, blankets, and sweaters. They forgot to fill the sweaters with their passengers. They just took sweaters. Weird. The Californian then was on its way to a specific place 9 miles from where they had discussed this occurring, where the icebergs were. They usually were there during this time. And so they were going to hang out, wait for the not Titanic to catch up. The Californian sat 9 miles from where the not Titanic was that night and was in contact with them the entire 24 hours leading up to this event. It's actually believed that Captain Smith and Captain Lord were in close relations of each other. Like, they were friends, they were pals, and they're on this voyage to come rescue everybody so nobody would be harmed and White Star would still get the bag. Unfortunately, this is something to put on your sticky note. Sticky note. So the Titanic, its entire time, was marking its location 12 miles off from where they actually were. So I'm going to show a map that's not going to make complete sense right now, but I'm going to bring it back. So let's say the Titanic thinks that they're marking that they're here, but they're actually over here. So the whole time their entire GPS is off. 12 whole miles. That's a lot. That's so much. And so the Californian is also getting their reads and where the boat is 12 miles off of where they are. If it was intentional that they did this or just a really unfortunate error in the technology, I don't know. So this isn't going to make a ton of sense with all of the boats, but what you can see is where in its final hours where the Californian was located and where the Titanic was supposed to be and where they were reporting that they were versus where they actually were, which makes a huge difference. It's the fateful day. It's April 14th, 1912. 9 a.m. 9 a.m. Wait. It was neither a bell nor a phone, but hey, there's icebergs. Big ones. You need to move. So the first notice came from liner Corona. And they were like, hey, just a heads up. I know you're heading this way. You might not want to do that. 10:15 a.m. So an hour and 15 minutes after this initial report comes in, Captain Smith of the not Titanic was told. So nobody's in a hurry around here, but whatever. It's like almost 20 hours in advance. So he's like, hey, just letting you know. Captain Smith puts it on a sticky note, pretends to put it in his pocket while his employee walks away. In the trash. Disregards it. 11 a.m. So at 11 a.m., there was a scheduled lifeboat drill that Captain Smith was like, we're not going to do that. Scratch it. Move on with your day. Go play some bingo. Whatever they were supposed to do in the Titanic, I don't know. No drill done. And there was no reason. Nope. We don't know why, but that was weird. That's weird. At noon, the second notice of another boat out came in about the icebergs. Hey, pal. Just a heads up. Sticky note. Trash can. No one put the sticky notes in their pocket. No one put them on the side of their computer. "2 p.m., you know who gives a little phone call over to Captain Lord? Captain Smith. And he's like, hey, we're getting notice of the icebergs." Click. Why'd you tell him that? Sticky note? Pocket. 5:50 p.m. So now we're 6 hours. That was bad math. 12 hours? No. We're like 6 hours, 7 hours. I don't know. We're a long way. So there were adjustments made to their course to go west to avoid, we're going this way. Gonna wait, north, south, east, west. To go west to miss it. You know what he did? Straight on. He said, scratch that. We are going to dive right in. Face first. Face plant, cannonball. Scratch that. Everyone on deck is like, what? We're going to go right into them? He's like, we're going to go right into them. Trust me. Okay. Because not everybody knew. I don't think everyone knew what was going on. But some people did. And they were like, ugh. But then some people were like, okay, yeah, I'll trust you. Never trust the captain of the boat, I guess, is the moral of the story. Don't trust the captain. Don't get on boats. Just don't leave the house, I guess. Moving on to 6 o'clock. Shift change. People on the bridge, people on the watchtower, the operator, they're all new people. And so no messages were relayed. These people don't know that there's something going on, that there's icebergs, that there's been change in plans, nothing. They're like totally clueless. They've got no idea. And so everything continues going on as planned originally. Then at 7:20, Californian calls, hey, icebergs are here. Just letting you know. Just letting you know. Operator goes and is like, hey, somebody just said there's icebergs. Oh, really? Okay. Thanks. Sticky note? Trash. What's with this guy? Wasting sticky notes. At 8:55 p.m., Captain Smith logs, going to bed, I'm out of here. Checks it with the bridge. Doesn't tell the dude a thing. Doesn't tell him anything. Like, hey, be on the lookout. He's like, all's good. Clear waters, clear skies. Nothing. Poor dude. Right? 9:40 p.m. The 5th report of icebergs. Big, monstrous icebergs come in. Nobody says a thing. Nobody says a thing. You know what's next? The Californian. Ring, ring, ring. Hey, we're anchored. This is where we are. I do know that they're not actually calling each other. It's a telegraph, but I don't know how to do a telegraph. So at 9:40, the 5th warning comes in. Hey, big icebergs. You guys, seriously? Really big. You need to, from SS Masaba. They were and nobody does a thing. They're all like, yep, clear water. Got it. What are we doing? Securing the bag. You know what the operator was doing? Not relaying these messages to anybody. He's sitting there, got his little notebook. He's getting the message. He sees it. Doodling little hearts. I heart money. I heart money. Money, money, money. With hearts all around it. That's what he's doing. Instead of telling everybody what's going on. That's what he's doing. 11 o'clock. Guess who calls? The Californian. Hey, bitch. We're here, and we're anchored right here. See you soon. Click. Sneaky little bitch. What? At 11:30 p.m., the iceberg is 4 miles away, which is about 10 minutes-ish at the speed that they're going. So they're getting really close. And nobody knows what's going on. 11:39 p.m. 1,000 yards out. So close. And we're going head on, babe. At 11:40 p.m., the crow's nest is alerted. And so they're like, because they had no idea that, like, everybody else that's, like, was previously working in Captain Smith was, like, aware all day of this. And so they're like, oh my gosh, instead of hitting it head on, which actually probably would have been better for the boat and for everyone on there, wouldn't have sunk near as fast. They were like, right side, took a hit. But they thought it was fine, and they, like, missed it when they didn't, because it was so deep. Like, the iceberg was 100 feet tall and 400 feet wide. I don't know about you, but I do not want to hang out with that. I do not want to drive my boat into that. And so they hit it from the side instead of head on. Rookie mistake, I guess. And the lookout fleet retires bed because they're like, oh, everything's fine. Like, we missed it. It's all good. It's cool. We didn't hit it because they didn't see it. No moon. Whatever. They go to bed. They're like, save the day. Hard work being a hero. And they go get some sleep. Midnight. Captain Smith is up. He's hanging out. He's out and about. He is like, okay, this is not kind of like vibing. He's not in a panic because he's like, oh, the Californian, they're like right over there. They're going to be here in like 30 minutes. We have plenty of time. I'm going to call them and get them over here and start loading people on boats. Like, it'll be fine. So he does that. He sends a message out in general requesting any available boats to come assist them because they've been in a wreck. The Californian, some idiot on the boat, turned off the radio. Turned it off. They say they had no idea it was off. They were just hanging out over there for the night, anchored in the middle of the North Atlantic with the radio off. At 12:20 a.m., so about 20 minutes, like, he's thinking the Californian's almost here. I sent out a message. They're, like, seriously almost here. They'll be pulling up any minute. Starts loading people onto the lifeboats. But only 28 of the possible 65 seats in the lifeboats were filled, which just doesn't make sense to me. Why didn't you fill them all up? Weird. Sticky note. Your pocket. So, but what's unfortunate is that the Californian, some silly goose over there, turned off the radio. No one on the boat knew it. They had no idea. They were like, oh, it's so quiet out here. Weird. Thinking the Titanic's running behind. They're not there yet. Everything's fine. Because the radio's silent. But it's off. They turned their receivers off. They didn't know it. So at 12:48, the first lifeboat is loaded and dropped into the water. And the first distress rocket's fired. Pause. I'm going to check that. So here's where our master plan falls apart, really. So there's a silly, goofy. So now we have 3 boats. Let's talk about the 4th boat. Samson. The Samson was a commercial fishing boat that evening happened to be illegally seal hunting. It's unfortunate. Wrong place, wrong time. And because the Californian radio's off, not Titanic, not Titanic has been marking its location 12 miles off from where they're supposed to be. Titanic sends off its first flare, which should have been a telltale sign to the Californian, right? Even if they had their radios off, distress flare. Let's go, girls. Wrong. Again, I know. No, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. So the Californian was instructed by the not Titanic and Captain Smith to be looking out for red and blue flares. Red and blue. You know, they sent off red and blue. The not Titanic ended up shooting 36 red and blue rockets, distress flares. However, the Californian never took action because they never saw them, because the Samson, who was camped out right in the middle, was also sending distress flares, white ones. Once they saw the first distress flares of the Titanic and knew that there was another boat and another problem, the captain of that boat panicked because he said that he was afraid people were going to start coming and they were going to get in trouble and arrested for illegally seal hunting. And so he was sending off white flares to get his independent fishermen back to the boat, loaded up so they could leave in a hurry and not go help the Titanic. I'm going to show the map again. So looking back at this map, it makes more sense where everybody was and why the Californian didn't see those flares. And their radio was off, so they weren't hearing the additional messages being sent out. So, moving on. At 2:20 a.m., so this is about 2.5 hours, 2 hours after the first distress, the Titanic starts going underwater. Then at 3:30 a.m., a ship that did happen to be going by heard the signal, saw the signals, or heard the radio, whatever. The Carpathia travels on over and starts plucking survivors out of the water, starts getting boats, whatever. They were the hero. They were not involved. They were just a hero. At 5:30 a.m., the crew on the Californian is like, look, oh shoot, our radio was off. I don't think it was on purpose, but it's kind of stupid. So 5:30 a.m., they turn their radio back on. They hear the Titanic's going down. They're in a hurry. They're booking it. But at this point, they're about an hour and a half away from the Titanic. Hour and a half away from the Titanic. So at 8:30, I lied. That was 3. It took them 3 hours to get over to the Titanic. Californian arrives, gets the last of the survivors in the water. It took them 3 hours. Okay. And so that's the whole timeline. After that, they went to New York, and those surviving crew members were forced to sign the document. And the plan, it didn't, so unfortunately, so many people died. But North Star made their bag. North Star received $9.4 million in insurance money. Do you know how much that would be today? Do you know? I'm going to tell you. $133 million. And so White Star got their money, and eventually they were forced to merge with some line owned by the British government. The Olympic what was the original Titanic continued working until 1935, where it was eventually taken apart, scrap pieces, and people could actually buy and take pieces of this boat. And what's very interesting is that there is someone, I think in Scotland, don't quote me on that, somewhere, there's a woman who owns a hotel, and someone in her family had purchased a plank of what was thought to be the Olympic. And she has it hung up there, but there's serial numbers for things, obviously. And the serial numbers on the pieces of the Olympic that she had actually are the serial numbers that are associated with and registered for the original Titanic. So that's really odd. That's odd. Why is that way? And another fun little thought. I am convinced that they didn't ever go and try to recover pieces and then bring the not Titanic back up to surface until recently, because they knew it was going to continue to disintegrate and be to where we can't touch it. If we do try to bring it up to surface, it's going to fall apart. Like, it's done. Because if they did, then you could see the obvious differences. Just a thought. I have a few fun facts before I leave you. A few fun facts. The wreckage was located in 1985, which was 73 years after it sunk. I know technology sucked, but like, really? It was located 2.4 miles below the surface, 400 miles off the coast of Newfoundland. It was calculated somehow that the front of the boat sunk at 35 miles an hour, and the back of the boat sunk at 50 miles an hour. The front and the back of the boat currently sit about 2,000 miles from each other. And that's all that I have for you today. I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts and questions and theories and whatever. Like and subscribe.